So, Jamie on his latest stream of Loomian Legacy has confirmed some new balance changes in Loomian Legacy. Some of these balance changes are admittedly pretty alright, but most of these are very good for the Loomians that are getting it. First off, let's talk about the first Loomian, which is Infernape, getting its balance change. The first one is Infernape, and Infernape is getting Wonder Herb. This is not really the greatest, especially because if you're trying to use this to on-status yourself, you already have Phoenix Flame, and Wonder Herb as of the whole isn't really that great now because hazards, or not hazards, but statuses right now aren't really being spread a lot, so Wonder Herb is not really that great of a buff, although it's something that Infernape can use in the future. However, Vice Jaws is being distributed to 5 metal type Loomians: Himbrr, Tyrex, Munchwheel, Oxydrake, and Samarine. Himbrr and Tyrex, as of these ones, these are pretty alright because of the Power Jaw. I think Munchwheel also does have Power Jaw, but overall Vice Jaws is really good. Mainly because Tyrex kind of forces most of its answers to either hit it back super effectively or just set up on along with it. And this is mainly in the case of Samarine, where if you are using something like an Obsidian, a Tundulin, to offensively check this thing, Samarine with Vice Jaws is pretty scary because Body Crash is a move that can hit Samarine super effectively, but you're gonna have to risk something that will be swapping in on that Body Crash. And of course, you can't use it again and again because Samarine is always gonna live one Body Crash and then will have the opportunity to do whatever it wants to you in the following turn. Vice Jaws is admittedly a very scary addition to Samarine, and I think it's probably going to be the best user of Vice Jaws. As of Oxydrake, it's just a pretty good buff for it. It's an upgraded stab that you can try to use, and that's not really anything else I can say. Radiant Rush, however, is being distributed to only 2 light types, those being Valkyrie and Luminami. Both are probably never going to use this simply because Valkyrie is a range attacker and Luminami, while they are being ran melee sometimes, most of them are running Flash and Flee, and ultimately having 2 light type coverages isn't really the greatest idea, especially when Luminami is most likely going to be hitting melee attackers that have their melee bulk high. As after that, we have a pretty good buff to Himbrr, which is getting bulk up. Now, I'm not sure why Jamie decided to buff Himbrr, because Himbrr without setup is already pretty strong, but now it has setup, so it can run a collection of Earthquake, Ice Hammer, Bulk Up, and you have a couple of options. You can choose to run priority with Quick Punch, which is actually even better now because of Bulk Up, and you can try and run Rogue Assault as well. You can also try and run more hazard removal with Mudslide or hazard setting with Icicle Traps, but ultimately Himbrr might be reverted to more offensive sets now that it has Bulk Up. Other than that, we have very good buffs to Loomians such as Vesperatu, Dusket, Harvesect, and Revenine, all being given the move Harrow. In case you don't know, Harrow is a 10% chance to poison any type of Loomian, and it is a 90 strength melee spirit type move. So Vesperatu has an even stronger spirit tab, something that it won't even use Phantom Slash anymore, which is obviously pretty good. Harvesect, it might not even run this considering Soulstorm is probably going to be preferred just to get rid of enchantments, but as of right now, this is also a pretty good upgrade stab to Harvesect. Revenine doesn't really want this considering it's a range attacker, and as for Dusket, mixed sets will appreciate this buff heavily, and of course it will work very well with Mean Spirited, as it can also try and fish for statuses to make it do much more damage. Other than that, we have Maraith getting Steel Crusher, which is very good when it's in terms of more melee focused Maraiths. Its old best metal stab was Metal Swipes, or Double Whack. So now that it actually has a 90 base power move that it can increase its melee attack on a percent chance is very great. Hogash getting Battle Chime. Hogash is probably going to move out of the unviable tier for me on this one, simply because Battle Chime now gives it a niche compared to other melee fire types such as Serenite and Krakaloa, which admittedly didn't have much niches compared to them anymore. However, next up we have Samarine also getting another buff, so now it has Fade Away. So Samarine now has a complete moveset, assuming you're not running Sharpen with Fade Away, Steel Crusher, or not Steel Crusher, but Vice Jaws, and it's Water Stab and Thunder Chomp. You can of course drop one of these for Fade Away, and admittedly Samarine is looking very good after these buffs. Fade Away is even more stronger now because you can just pivot out of your answers, and that's going to be some nice chip in the late game because you are now obviously going to have the ability to one-shot or two-shot depending on how much times you set up on the swap, and Fade Away just gaining momentum for your team is already very amazing. As of that, we have some subpar buffs, which is Ragon and Borak getting Rogue Assault, which is not really that great. Ragon getting Gnarly Gash, which is admittedly a pretty good buff, but honestly, it's not really that worth it because it's just a utility-based Loomian. Florent getting Bulk Up, which is good for the Soul Burst, which is admittedly not that great right now, but it's definitely a Loomian that you can definitely try and use. And as for Mamask, it gets Bag of Tricks, which is of course a niche and really not worth using. So overall, these balance changes are very good. Let me know your thoughts on these balance changes, and yeah, this is Conasoups signing off to remind you that Zulong is still a dumpster fire.